So I think, Ganeshan, I'm going to come to you now, saying that the panelists have painted a pretty rich picture of where we are today, where our expectations for the future is. I'm going to bring it down very micro and say that given what we started off in discussing, that there is a huge pressure on justifying, on making sure that whatever we do with HR and in HR actually delivers and partners business in this demand for ROI. I have two questions to you, and then I'll get other people to join in and reflect. Is metricizing a good thing? And if it is, what from your experience are the things that have worked very well and what hasn't, perhaps?
Yeah. Thanks for this question. See, coming from the largest private employer in India and the largest recruiter in India for the last number of years, one of the challenges is I deal with engineers. A good engineer is somebody who measures twice and cuts once. And the problem with dealing with engineers is they look at everything as Excel spreadsheets. And the problem is you're dealing with people. So that's where the problem of metricization comes. So the question is, are you making data points important because it's easy to measure? Or are you measuring important things because it adds value? I think that is where the dilemma we get in. As Risha said, technology is only an enabler. The soft touch cannot be taken. And to answer a particular point, HR's roles also have changed principally because I operate out of 118 countries. Diversity is becoming a way of life. Managing culture is an everyday issue. And if you are, as part of a role, have to handle M&As, and you go down to France or to Russia or to Israel or to Sri Lanka or probably Antarctica, that's the only place where you are not operating. And if you have to go and insource or rehire people, then it becomes all the more complex from the HR's perspective. And these are some of the new skills which I feel typically that you don't learn at schools. And this is something that you get when you work closely with the business. To answer it, and the problem is many times I heard a lot of people saying we need to align with business and things like that. I think we should align with organizational goals. And I think I'm very careful because I know the media is there. And I don't think we should align closely with the business because I'm keeping in mind the cases like Enron and other companies in the world and in India where HR probably did not stand as a moral compass and stand up and say, hey guys, whatever you're doing is wrong. So the too much of alignment to business is something wrong. I think HR should align to organization goals and not necessarily with business leaders. In sense. To come back to your question, from a metrics part of it, I think it's very important because what gets measured gets done. But as I said, what are you measuring is very, very important. And if those measurements is not going to add to overall value to the organization, to your stakeholders, whoever they are, whether it could be shareholders or to your employees or to the common public, I don't think too much of materialization will help. But one of the biggest challenges that HR has always been told is you guys are not metrics driven, you always are into approximations. We are into approximations because we deal with people. And that's where the problem of version 1, version 2, version 3 comes. When you talk putting people in versions, this is the problem. Metrics is very important, but what you measure and what decisions you make out of metrics is very, very important. That's my view.
Dharmendra, I'm coming to you with the same question. I think there are differences in the kind of industries we work. I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, in a construction place, a lot more transactional in nature, a lot more short-term in nature. Is your answer to that same question a little different?
No, it's almost the same. We talk about the metrics part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
just to give you an idea, when you talk about construction, basically construction, it's all about projects. And projects have a specific time duration. They may be maybe 6 months, 3 months, maybe 5 years. You're looking at this ITC hotel. This is built by L&T. Okay. This maybe took a couple of years or more. We are seeing this metro outside, which is also being built by L&T, just outside here. That takes maybe 4 or 5 years. There are railway lines. So all kinds of projects are there. Now, but predominantly, you will find the time frame of about 2 years to 3 years, at least in the buildings space where I am coming from. It's about a couple of years. Now, it has got its own challenges. The key challenge is the execution within the timeline, within the cost, as Indranil rightly mentioned, and as per the quality specifications. Now, if you want to derive the metrics, there can be some very broad metrics, but when it comes to the specific project, metrics necessarily will be different. All the general, the output which you get out of the metrics could be good, but ultimately the project may not be successful, or the project may not make the money, because that's not really the right relevant metrics. So one has to take these metrics with a pinch of salt. And what is more important is, because many times the information comes much later, and by the time the damage is already done, because remember, the projects are happening 24/7. So, you can't get that kind of 24/7 metrics. So things keep, it's a way of monitoring, it's a very broad way of monitoring, but not necessarily gives you the exact picture. For example, let me just give you, there are some situations where a very good project going along well suddenly gets stuck for whatever reasons. Okay, now let us take, for example, this Port Road, Ennur Port Road, which happened, which got stuck here in Chennai. Now, at the end of the year, maybe all the metrics would be bad. The profitability would be bad, the productivity per person would be bad, because the work has stopped for no reason. So it's for no fault of the project team. Now what happens? Obviously you need to look at these metrics and understand the reasons behind that. So there's one problem which I face when dealing with metrics. Actually, today we all talked about HR, and basically, while it's about dealing with people, technology has made it very easy for us. So today, all my younger colleagues in HR, I keep talking to them every day, that they try to manage HR by Excel sheets. You forward the emails, or you get the information from the Excel, and you just, it's become more a virtual kind of HR management. The touch and feel is missing. So the problem in metrics is that you lose the touch and feel. When we didn't have the metrics, we had no alternative but to really get to know clinically what's happening, which I think is always a far more effective way. And at least in project management, there's a lot of gray which cannot be found out by just looking at the metrics. So one needs to have a combination of metrics and the actual, the dil part of it in the connect with the employees.
So I hear a lot of the sort of no metric kind of thing. I'll come to Richard. Some of the stuff that your company would be selling actually helps company in creating those metrics. So from knowing that, how do you sort of balance the two?
I think those metrics are certainly important. In today's time, organizations are growing, complexity being higher, there's ambiguity around the environment. Now, all these matrices that are available with HR, it does help us in taking decisions. It does throw indications, let's, for an example, an attrition prediction tool, which may take into account the demographics of an individual, the career path that he has had in the organization, his pulse, his state of mind at a particular point of time. And based on that, one could predict as to what is the attrition probability. While that's a very good tool, it does give an indication. But that is not an end in itself. Human behavior is a lot more complex. Without matrices, it will be very difficult to handle that. But with matrices alone, if that is the basis of taking decision, that is also incorrect. Matrices is step one, but it also has to be substituted by the human touch to see what exactly is required and what should be the right intervention.
Murthy, before I come to you, I'm going to go to Aroki and hear a little more about predictive analytics, and does that play a big role in?
Yeah, I think we've been talking about metrics for about 20 years, if I'm right. Every company has been talking about metrics, reports, reporting. I think it's there for a long time. But what predictive analytics bring to the table as far as HR is concerned, that we are not talking about what is the attrition today, okay, give me what can be projection for next 2 months or 3 months. I think we have to move away from that because the market is very volatile. What we have to look at is what is the skill gaps that we are going to foresee in the next 3 years' time. What should be my workforce need for the next 2 years' time. If this is the way market is going to move, if these are the trend that the business is going to these are the areas that business are going to focus on getting business. What should be my workforce need? What should be my, how do I address my skill gaps? And these kind of metrics are required to predict the next 1 or 2 years so that the business can be prepared now to be more cost efficient and to be more, productivity efficient. This is probably the concept that predictive analytics bring to the table, vis-a-vis our reactive analytics, which we say, okay, what is your attrition yesterday? Today, okay, what do we do next?
So is that something that you guys are using already?
This is something that we are looking at implementing maybe in the next 6 months to 1 year. I started working on these subjects with my counterparts in North America. So I hope we bring.
We are working on it
Okay.
to basically measure who could be the possible attrite.
Okay.
So we track some 10 to 15 parameters in terms of how well he or she is working in the project, what is the quality of deliverable, what is the rework that we are doing and things like that. But I think it all got to do with the nature of industry. He spoke about ability to predict what could happen in the next 2-3 years. I come from an industry where, cutting edge technology leads to bleeding edge technology. Gray hairs and bald head does not matter. What is gray inside the head? Today that only matters. So that's the situation. And many times HR is asked to change the wheel when the train is running. So this is a challenge we have. So predictive analytics will be able to tell you things because we have seen enough 1995, 2000, 2009, and everybody said everything is going to be honky-dory, and 2012, we're now talking about version 3.0. And you can have 3.0, 3.1, 3.2 because things are not going to dramatically change over a period of time. So that is why I'm saying ability to respond is very, very important, and staying relevant is going to be the most important thing for HR, and not only for HR, for organizations also. I'll stop now and I'll move on to Murthy because he comes from a different perspective, but from a decision perspective, your views.
Murthy, I'm going to bring in another view. I think it was Einstein. Yes, it was Einstein who said that not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted.
I think that's what he said in different words before, right?
So, is there something such as too many measures from a CEO's viewpoint now?
Yeah, I think I have seen companies, making an overkill out of the metrics and scorecards and the different color codes, and it's worse than a cockpit of a pilot. So I think that's too much. It's an overkill. I believe in the simplicity principle. KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? It has to be, even if a 10th grader can understand the metric and how it is measured and why it's being measured, that's the sweet spot. If it takes you a manual to explain why that metric is there, how it is measured, and what systems and tools and IT things are you using, and then eventually there is some subjectivity of the manager to top off on it, then you'll lose the faith and trust of the employee. So we should not make a career out of metrics. Metrics is a navigation tool, and still use some common sense along with the navigation. It's like GPS. I was driving the other day in US. It says like take a right turn, take a right turn. The right turn is the damn curb. I can't take a right turn on the curb, because that system is designed at a certain point of time. So I need to use the common sense and say, okay, I'm using it as a navigational device, and at the same time apply some common sense. So that subjectivity is required, but most people do the mistake of either being too subjective or being too objective and Excel spreadsheets or whatever they say. So I think panel is violently agreeing on the concept of balance. I think so. I agree with them.
I think RK wants to add something.
I think I would probably not like the audience to mistake that I'm only talking about predictive analytics. I'm only talking about data points. I think what I'm trying to bring to the table here is predictive analytics is very important, but at the end of the day, we need to build a culture as HR. We are HR professionals that is entering what we call the war zone of economy, okay? So we have to be prepared. So we need to be driven by information, we need to be driven by data. But at the end of the day, our backbone is the culture that you build in the organization. So every organization, HR folks, we as a fraternity should build an organizational culture that is able to sustain the volatile economy. So how do you really build? If you really go back to what I said in the initial talk, I said we need to build a culture of innovation. We need to build a culture of innovation in the system, which is actually not mathematics, which means we are building a culture of thinking beyond. So how do you build that culture? And of course, this analytics helps you, but it is not the only thing that you do in a system. This is one of the tool that you use. But what is important is what kind of culture that you bring onto the table that drives your organization with the leadership team so that we can swim across the bad times and get into the new times. That's the whole principle I would like to
I think we all get that loud and clear, but before I leave the subject of metrics, even where they are used, I'm coming to you and open to everyone in the panel, what is the right balance between measuring for activity and measuring for results? I keep hearing this debate saying, don't measure results, measure activity, which is something I heard you say, that what if the project stopped? Then you're measuring result and you're, but I think there's some balance we need to get into both. What's your views on that?
I think, although both are important, but measuring for activities is more important, because when you measure only for results, there are there are traps. You get to know some of the skeletons in the cupboard much later. Things maybe don't come out, particularly at least in projects. There is a defect liability, then there are safety situations. There are some various other kinds of issues which crop up much later. What is necessary is the process. In other words, process is you can call it set of activities. So I think you need to ensure that the process parameters are ensured, which means that you need to also look at the activities. But of course, all that may be perfect, but the results may not happen. So ultimately, yes, the results are important, because you just can't follow the process, and you need to have your innovativeness. You need to find, use your smartness or ingenuity, or use your team and develop some synergy to get around some of the issues. And with your leadership, you need to still deliver the results. So therefore, the results are also equally important. So I think again, a balance is required, but definitely the monitoring of the processes is very important. You just can't just leave it to the results and say, okay, you got this done. How is equally important today?
Sure. Yeah. Anyone else in the panel wants to say something?
I mean, coming from an IT, I would say it depends upon which side of the table you're sitting. If I'm the client, I would like to reward results.
I'm sitting at the HR head's point.
Yeah, so the thing is, unfortunately in life, nobody rewards people for good intentions. Everybody gets rewarded for results. It's good to say, hey, you guys did a phenomenal good work in delivering the project, but the client is unhappy, then it's a problem. And as far as HR guys, we see a problem, because the guy tells me, sir, I delivered phenomenal project, look at my quality levels, phenomenal tool I brought in, but at the end of the day, the project got delivered badly. So now, do you reward, as it's no different from what Dharmarajan was mentioning about, they did a phenomenal work, let's say with the construction building, and I wish everything is done, because L&D does a good job. But at the end of the day, whoever is the result, the client is not happy with it, because he says the degree of tilt of the bridge is not what I want. It's like opposite the bridge near the IIT, where only one bus can go and 3 bikes can go. Something like that happens. By the way, L&T did not construct the bridge, so I just want to make it clear. No, if that is the case, the workers did a great job, but at the end of the day, whoever is the end customer is not happy about. So I am a votary saying results are important. Maybe for satisfying my employees, I should say, yeah, you guys did a good job, but ultimately, it's like saying somebody scored a century, but we did not win the match. That's what
or operation successful, patient
Yeah.
dead. Yeah, something on this line.
Can I say,
Yeah, sure,
say
sure,
something
please,
quickly?
please.
This is a beautiful example. Whatever Ganeshan has spoken about, look at that. And this is a real life situation. People say phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal 3 times. I don't know how to measure phenomenal as an engineer. Maybe I'm a wrong guy, engineer on the table. Maybe there are a few other engineers in the room. And on the other hand, he spoke about numbers. 1 bus, 2 scooters, or whatever. So people, the tilt, it is mathematics, degrees and other things. So people, when you talk about rewarding and reality and facts, it is the numbers. And when we say, often you find in the boardrooms and in the CEO's rooms and evaluating people, he's a great guy. He's a phenomenal guy. Good soul, nice guy, good job. It doesn't mean jack to me, right? Good job, phenomenal, nice, blah, blah. It all means in terms of the value you add. Revenues accomplished, market share won, the project accomplished. These things nobody can debate. Nobody can debate. Often we get stuck with, immeasurable, non-tangible, these kinds of things. So, and again, one extreme of the tangibility and matrices is not good. So the tangible nature should be instituted by HR leaders, then the subjectivity is gone. Otherwise, you will find some managers and some leaders rating some of the people always the best, the best, the best. It is the halo effect and other things, right? Just I'll leave it.
Thanks. Richa, you
Sure. Another classic example is performance appraisal time. We keep hearing these kind of adjectives so many times. And what we are looking for is really results.
Yep.
fit the bell curve.
Yeah.
We've all gone through that. Right, so I'm going to move from metrics to the thing that we talked about at the beginning, the trend of technology, and ask the panelists from, what technologies in the recent past have you seen that you have adopted and you would suggest that others adopt in the area of being able to deliver same thing that we started off with, saying how do you make sure we are efficient in the work that we do in HR? How do we make sure that we are in line with the demands of the business? Is there some things that you would suggest to us at any stage of their entire funnel, whether it's building the employee value proposition, whether it's recruitment, whether it's any other part of anyone to start.
Yeah, maybe my name is Ganesh, so I start off everything first, so I'll just do that. I think it's very important, especially when you're dealing with the next generation of employees or any employees, why should we talk about this, is an organization's say-do ratio has to be extremely high. If you have a difference between percept and word actions that you have, then you have a problem. So to answer a particular question, enabling technology by which every individual in the organization knows what are the values and what is happening in the organization, and communicating a uniform policies and also the actual implementation. To me, who moved from manufacturing to an IT from 20 years back, makes a hell of a lot of difference, because if I had to communicate something to 276,000 employees over 118 countries, one click of a button ensures whether good or bad communication goes to all. Interpretations can change, but the content of the communication doesn't go. That has helped us build a structure, a system where policies, practices, rules, news, everything goes to people at the same time. Because we look at the organization as it grows bigger and bigger and span of control becomes difficult, it is sometimes a lack of information or over information which creates a problem. So since you asked this question, I would say internet, I would say technology has enabled me to create a backbone for communication, and as HR people, communication is very, very important. So I hope that is the point I would like to look at.
Anyone
Yeah,
else?
I agree that the technology definitely helps us to as a tool to simplify or speed up various HR processes, whether it is appraisal, whether it is communication of any kind, whether it is even recruitment you do through the VC or the Skype, etc. So any of those, the activities required for HR it has helped. But unfortunately, I mean, having said that, there's also the threat or the danger of then they were losing the personal touch. That's the problem. So I think it's very important that you use this as a tool, but not as an end by itself, and you still have to reach out to your customer, which is the human resource on the inside the project or in the site or wherever in the manufacturing.
No.
Okay.
I'll just like to add some views or thoughts on this particular point. At the end of the day, we are all human beings. Whether we are in India 1 or India 5, we are all human beings. And there are certain basic needs that we need to fulfill, irrespective of technology. Of course, I do join the race with all the other panelists that we need to have a web portal, we need to have all the communication tools, and because that's the fastest way to connect with employees across regions, across borders, across cultures. And maybe we can also talk about new applications that can be even more faster than what we are having today. So there is no end to it. But fundamentally, what is important is a basic need of a human being. So what's the touch that you give? So we should not dilute as HR professionals even after 100 years. For example, there is a problem of an employee. You can easily send an email, or you can just say, okay, go to that particular application or web tool. It is available. So what? Okay, I also know, but interpretations do change. Every human being interprets the same policy or same process in a different manner. I mean, you ask 5 guys, each of them will have a different kind of interpretation. So what is important at the end of the day, communication, yes, very important. Technology, yes, it enables, but the 90% goes again back to the human touch. And how you bring that human touch is very important in the changing business scenarios. I think that keeps changing, but you need to keep that human touch.
One more dimension, human touch is important. We should maintain that throughout. I think one more thing that technology enables us to do as HR function. Technology, if it's taking care of our processes, if it is giving the matrices, analytics, all those things, it gives HR people more bandwidth to actually contribute as business partners. If you're looking at, say, developing the leaders, that seems to be a major challenge that all organizations have been talking about. We as HR have to play an important role in how we are enabling and building the leadership pipeline. So with technology being a good enabler, it helps us to focus on areas like this.
Another question I'm going to throw to the panel, and part of the discussions I've had with some of you, is this entire thing of being able to reach out to people who you will recruit at some point in time, and using technology and other things to try and make sure that either they are ready for you, you are setting the right expectation, or actually you're building the right base for you to then pick up on. Can some people elaborate on that?
Are you talking, just my clarification, are you talking about the to be hired?
To be hired,
Okay.
yeah.
So again, there is maybe I come from a different school of thought because I come from engineering background. It's more specific, automotive engineering. I feel that technology should be used in that space also. But the way you sell it is more to do with what you say, influential marketing. The concept of influential marketing, what you need to bring, that is you deep dive, you penetrate into your segment. You don't spread width, you spread depth. So you identify your target segment, use technology in that area, create kind of, it's a blogs, student blogs or some kind of engineering, let's say mechanical engineering student blogs where you can easily interact with them and you can sell your brand, you can create a market leadership in that space. But again, I come back to the same point, technology is yes an enabler, HR should get in touch, some maybe okay, in a very rare occasions, but it should be more a depth kind of a penetration.
Can I go?
You sure.
I am always recruiting great talent. So, everybody is passively seeking a career path, passively, some are aggressively and actively. And I always believed in, if you find great talent, hire one. That's it. Don't wait for the right job and don't say, let's keep in touch. And when you want to keep in touch, the person might not be ready or you might not have a headcount or growth. If you find right talent, hire them and the jobs will get created, growth will get created and all that. We as HR leaders or business leaders in this room should think about, if you find a great talent, create a job around that person.
So I just want to let you know, as somebody who keep recruiting 60,000, 70,000 every year, just to put a data point here, the strength of TCS in 2005 was 35,000 people. In the year 2009, 2010, 2011, 12, we recruited 60,000 people. That means within 5 years, we doubled the total strength of people. So naturally, technology has enabled us to do this. Today, we have something called the campus commune, where I have 317,000 engineering students who have registered with me. I engage with them right from the first year. And it's through quizzes, questions. It's like the Facebook among engineering colleges. This year, I'm recruiting around 25,000 guys. I looked at around 150,000 people. Tech enabled them to go through the process. And I found out of 120,000 people, 1 lakh people are already there in my equivalent of Facebook, which is called Campus Commune. The point that I'm bringing in is the trend of going to campuses and doing day 1, day 0, day -0 and all that will go over a period of time. You need to engage with the student, engineering student right at the beginning of it in the first year. And what happens over the next 4 years before he comes in is he's going to leave me enough footprints on what he or she is all about. So when I'm going to look at him at the end of 4 years, I know he or she a personality, not in the 15 minutes, but what he or she has done in 14 years. So technology is a great enabler in making sure this. Second thing is, we pushed all our offers. By the end of the day, when he finished the recruitment, when he walked home, all the offers were in his mobile phone, provided he had a phone which had this. So when he went home, he could show his dad or mom his offer letters. Why I'm saying is, today we are dealing with a generation who needs instant gratification on anything. And that is where a challenge also which HR is facing, because they have been used to getting promoted in school every year. When they come to organization also, they want promotion every year. I mean, I'm sure there are many people who are referring this. And that's what happens. So we have to tell them very, very clearly. But having said that, it's not a negative point. As he mentioned, it is for us to make sure and set the expectations very, very clearly. And if they see a difference between precept and practice, that's where they're questioning. Otherwise, I would love to work with this generation. They are great guys, and more important, we constantly learn from them. I think that's what we need to keep it.
Yeah, one angle I was also coming from is that, while you've been, the numbers that you spoke about are staggering. Yeah. However, the challenge I would come back to here is probably different in the sense that you could recruit anyone from any college and teach them C++, if that is the whatever. Whereas in your case, internal capability building, given a project scenario, given movement, is not something you'd probably be able to do.
Not possible.
Or in your case, where you're not hiring those numbers, how do you then see this?
Actually, that is the biggest challenge today for the infrastructure business. I mean, for HR in the infrastructure or the India 3 infrastructure. We need specialists, we need high caliber talent with very niche skills which are not available in our system, and not available in the country and not readily available from outside for various reasons, for legal reasons, for due to the the price, the wage rates, it's or sheer unattractiveness of the project or the site or the location. So we have a problem in the sense that we have to scale up, but we just can't do it internally. It's not that we can set up a training school and create some tunnel tunnel boring technicians for the metro, or some other project managers for some high velocity railway or something like that. It's just not possible. Or for the air side of the airport, these are the projects which we have done in L&T. That's why I'm mentioning them. So it's a big challenge for us. So the issue is from HR, the real challenge for HR in India 3, if you see, is that we need to first create those capabilities outside. We have to collaborate with the government, with the academia outside. First, enable those those skills to be brought in to inside the country, and create sufficient infrastructure so as to create a future pool. Today we are managed with whatever is there, but we create a future pool of such specialists, which is a huge number. Actually, if you see the number of infrastructure recruits, the maximum number in India, the maximum people are employed in infrastructure next to agriculture. Okay, so it's in lakhs. We have it's in crores actually, and every year there are about some 4 lakhs plus getting added into the pool. Even the engineers themselves are 1 million plus. So these kind of numbers is just not available, and we can't substitute a mechanical engineer for some civil job or vice versa. It's just not possible, because these are very niche kind of skills. So this is a big problem. So the non-availability of core skills which has happened. Actually, our chairman had mentioned in the past also that when the IT boom took place, the infrastructure industry suffered in India, because top-ranking chemical engineers from IIT went and joined the IT companies as COBOL programmers and stuff like that. So it affected because there was no simultaneous growth in infrastructure at that time. So we have a problem here, and this in fact is for me the biggest challenge as far as the capability building is concerned, and for which we need to first work externally, and it's quite fast. I mean, the requirement is very fast. We need to speed up that and get the people on board, because the projects will languish otherwise. So I think
is there a use of technology in this to help you?
Technology will help in terms of the execution of the project.
No, in terms of getting the right people, getting them skilled outside externally before bringing them in.
Technology will definitely help. Technology will help, but ultimately it's a question of setting up the infrastructure and creating a kind of a system or what to say, a body of people available, which is more important. Technology, if you're talking about technology for the training, to some extent within the system we do that also. We have our own construction skills training institutes where we use the best technology. Many of these technologies are kind of patented or belong exclusive to L&T, which is not available outside. Actually, we even tied up with the 2 institutes in Tamil Nadu for degree, as well as another one is a diploma institute, where we are having one full course on formwork, because formwork is not there as a syllabus anywhere in this country, and that is in fact one of the most important areas in civil engineering if you want to build high-rise structures. So this is where we use our technology and create this availability. So yes, we can use the technology.
Any thoughts before I?
Sure. Our hiring is not in large numbers, as Ganeshan was talking about, but the hiring numbers that we have are much smaller, but very niche skills, and technology has helped a great deal. The kind of networking that we see through Facebook and other tools that are available certainly helps in attracting people much faster. There is another approach that we have taken. What Murthy was mentioning, looking for the talent, and if we spot a talent, we would hire. If we see the spark in an individual, we would hire that person and see what is the role that we could create for this person, and going forward, how could we keep providing him career growth year after year. There's quite a bit of lateral thinking here. For us, if we are hiring a salesperson, we would not necessarily look for only sales background. We would be open for people even non-sales background. If we see the spark, we feel that if that spark is there, that person can quickly shape up and take up the role that is desired.
So before I throw this the questions onto the house, if all of you could summarize your last thoughts on the subject before we go for questions.
I just want to only respond to what Sharmarajan said. Of course, all of us always take pot shots on IT industry, which is also very expected, but then unfortunately all our warts get into IT industry. But the fact is right, because Mr. Ramdarai, who is now part of the skill ministry development thing, is one thing we are concerned is we are going to have tremendous shortage of welders, carpenters. So what's going to happen is it's going to make so-called blue-collar workers or white-collar workers who are sitting in AC to get down to nuts and bolts to start working on drainages. I had a phenomenal meeting with the ICT Academy where I found out, I forgot the name of the institution, where, in Pune, sorry, College of Engineering Pune, every day evening gets 100 plumbers, train them for 3 months. And then TCS developed with one technology called Velu the welder, where through automation you can actually do welding through this, so people can do it. So it's got a great point, but one thing I just want to make it clear is today there's a convergence of technology. In a cell phone, which Murthy is looking at it's got a more computing software than the 1969 Apollo which went up there. So you have a plastic technology, you need a chemical guy, so you have a chip manufacturing guy, then you have software technology. So there's a lot of convergence of technology happening today. So I'm sure, for example, if you have to do a soil testing to understand whether a building can be constructed, you can create 3D modules to understand the soil testing. Probably what took 6 months to dig it up, take the soil, send it to somewhere else, probably is being done in 2 days or 3 days.
It's being done. We are doing it also.
Yeah, that's right. So that way technology has enabled them to reduce the dependence on manpower and constrain the time. But yes, too much of focus on something else really happened personally.
No, it has speeded up the training process also, as you mentioned, and some very advanced technologies are coming up called haptic technology, for example, where using the simulation you can actually physically train the person. He doesn't have to work it, but the same amount of pull has to be used, same amount of pressure has to be used by the person. You know, all the movements will be similar to what you would physically do, but sitting in front of a kind of a robo, it's kind of thing. But this is emerging, and once it comes for a problem in the next 4 or 5 years, it will really we can scale up the training, you know, in kind of geometric proportions.
If I could add some views on the same line. See, our industry is very niche because I'm talking about automotive engineering. We talk products that's going to come 10 years down the line. So we are a little different in the way we are not very large scale like TCS or L&T. We are very small, like 5,000 or 6,000 numbers. And we also have a lot of skill gap in this particular industry. You know, it is also expected that in next 8 or 9 years time, we'll have a major skill gap in auto engineering. So that's going to be a challenge for the country to cope up because it's very, very young in India. But then how do we cope up in terms of this challenge? It's something which we need to really think through, and of course training is important. But I can give you one example that we did in Datsun Go, which is the new product that's getting launched in I think about Feb 2014. Yeah. And it is our organization, that is Renault Nissan Technology Center in Chennai. It is a completely made in India, I would say. The beauty is, by using a CAE technology, what we have done is we have reduced about 25 to 30% of our, we have reduced the time of, SOP by using the CAE design software, by introducing certain methodologies, exactly what Mr. Dharmarajan was saying. That has helped us reduce cost and increase the productivity at the end of the day. And of course, there are many more technologies which I can't share with you at this moment. Sure. Certainly, it's going to help in reducing time, increasing your efficiency, coming up with more precision. But still, it will not help us in reducing the skill gaps because it needs a lot of calculations, a lot of algorithms that needs to be the force here needs to get trained, which is still not there in India. So it takes a long time. And for example, we train about 200 engineers every year in Japan or in Europe on a regular basis to get skilled. We are probably 8 or 9 years already in the system. So it's a big skill gap here. I'm sure we'll be able to overcome in the next few years' time.